Something I say a lot when I'm explaining C++ and how it's different from other languages is that the fundamental types and the user-defined types are really on an equal footing. Operator overloading is one of the things that makes that true. So you can write int I is equal to j plus 3. You can also write order new order is equal to old order plus new item. And plus, that fundamental operation of addition can be something that makes sense for orders and items. This is overloading. To make it make sense, whoever wrote the order class has to write some code that says here's how to add an item to an order, but you don't necessarily have to have a function called add. You can use the much easier to spell and remember plus sign if you want to as the way to add items to an order. Usually the function that you write is a member function. So in this case, the order developer would put something into the order class explaining how to add items into it. It's also possible that you could write a free function, that is a function not a member of any class, that takes two parameters, an order and an item. Why would you do that? Maybe if you were the item developer and you didn't have access to the order class to change it. The other reason that you'll see it is if the first item, the one before the operator, is not a class, but say an integer, something you can't change. Then you have to write a free function to explain how to take 3 and add an item to it. Doesn't make any sense for items. There are cases where it may make sense. Now the standard library is rich in overloads that you've been using without seeing them. For example, the getName function in the person class that's been used in a number of these demos returns first name plus quote space quote plus last name. We're using the plus operator to combine strings, not because that's part of the language the way it might be in some other languages, but because the plus operator has been overloaded by the author of the string class. And they've written code that will add two strings together, giving you a new string. You don't even see it. You read the line of code, you know how it works, you don't even notice. The cin and cout using those double arrows turn out to be overloads of the bit shift operator. And when we talk about the standard library in more detail and talk about things like collections, it's rich in overloads of, for example, the increment operator that you can use to move through a collection, moving on to the next and the next and the next. In addition to the arithmetic operators, you can overload the comparison operators, whether one order is greater than another, whether one date is less than another, whether one string is equal to another. You can even overload operators that most people don't realize are operators and in fact think are part of the language. And there's some very powerful and useful classes in the standard library that have overloaded these strange operators. We'll talk about them as we get to them, but you should know that essentially the whole language is at your feet through the power of operator overloading.